Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
Do you know, dear, choke on that inheritance with your mistress? Her husband actually stopped chewing. And when he found out why his wife had become so bold, Carlotta gazed wistfully at the nearly empty jar of her favorite night cream. She had brought this product from India last year. It was then that the woman realized she dreamed of creating something similar, but in her own country. Cosmetics had become her true passion. A pharmacist by training, Carlotta began studying treatises on Ayurveda and folk medicine in search of the healing properties of plants. Indians skillfully utilized what nature offered them, extracting benefits from almost every root. When Carlotta first saw women of this nationality in person, she was struck by the perfect condition of their skin and hair. The poorest, worn out by hard physical labor, could boast of an even tone and radiance that no product she knew, not even the most expensive from leading European brands, could provide. As for the elderly, one could only call someone a granny if she had celebrated her 80th birthday. There wasn't a single wrinkle on the tanned faces of women aged 30 to 60, all of whom had white-toothed smiles. At that moment, Carlotta bought nearly the entire range of market cosmetic shops, taking items without a second thought, convinced that she would personally test each product. To her great surprise, everything cost just a ridiculous amount of rupees. Jasper then complained that his wife had stuffed their suitcases full of incomprehensible jars with even less comprehensible contents, but Carlotta didn't care. She had set herself a clear goal: to study the compositions in a laboratory, slightly modernize them, and adapt them for European skin types, and then actively promote them to the masses. Emlica, ashwagandha, turmeric, amrut, neem, shatavari. Carlotta had to memorize not only these names, but also study all their properties in detail. Unfortunately, despite the knowledge she gained, she realized that her dream of creating skincare cosmetics based on Eastern practices still remained just that, a dream. Officially, Carlotta worked in a small laboratory producing dietary supplements and sports nutrition. The salary was decent, but clearly not enough to afford expensive equipment. Those electronic microscopes cost a fortune, not to mention everything else. And sourcing raw materials would have to happen in the East. Almost nothing like that grew in their latitudes, which again required money. Should she take out loans? They were already struggling with a mortgage and car loan. The last thing they needed was to accumulate debt, especially since prospects for selling such specialized products were still hazy. But worst of all was Jasper's vehement opposition. Carlotta was puzzled. Why did her husband not support her? He used to easily embrace any of her ideas, even if they were smaller in scale. As soon as she mentioned wanting to create her own cosmetic brand, he immediately went on the defensive. Not only did he fail to support her, but he also began scaring her with potential failures and bankruptcy, as if to say, "Who here?" In conditions where the shelves of all the stores are piled high with jars of creams of all kinds, cares about some unknown manufacturing company? He dismissed any objections Carlotta raised, and soon even mentioning this venture escalated into a heated scandal. Carlotta tried to act in secret. She sought sponsors, like-minded people, even asking her aunt for advice and help. Her Aunt Agatha was a pharmacist with vast experience and quite affluent. She had both the necessary knowledge and useful connections. Moreover, it was at her aunt's urging that Carlotta enrolled in the biotechnology faculty and later graduated from the pharmaceutical academy through distance learning. But here too, the woman ran into a wall of misunderstanding. Agatha, who had previously been inclined to such ventures, immediately began dissuading her niece, using roughly the same arguments as Jasper. Carlotta realized that she shouldn't expect help or money and gradually began to bury her dream, hoping that one day the stars would align and she could revive it. For now, the woman continued to study the subject and quietly experimented in her laboratory when she was completely alone. Unfortunately, the management also expressed sharp dissatisfaction. Everything had to be done secretly and very slowly. Carlotta ordered a whole set of the herbs she needed from Mumbai, and as soon as it arrived, she began actively adjusting the proportions to achieve the desired results. For 7 months, the woman stayed late in the laboratory. The only person who supported her was her assistant, Leah. With the same zeal as Carlotta, she tested samples, formulated recipes, and covered for her boss to keep their little secret just that, a secret. Jasper was categorically against all this. The man sharply criticized his wife when she returned home around midnight yet again. "Carlotta, this is just unacceptable." Grigory started as soon as the woman managed to close the door behind her. "How long is this going to go on? You're hardly ever home. Do we have a family or what? If your work is more important to you than I am, then just say so. I can't even remember the last time I had a proper dinner. I'm always ordering takeout. Are you even my wife?" "Jasper," Carlotta exclaimed, wide-eyed, "you know how important this is to me. And don't exaggerate, I'm always home on weekends. So what if a few times you had dinner that wasn't made by me? And anyway, since you brought up family, you could cook occasionally too. I remember when we first started living together, you couldn't be dragged away from the stove. We even argued over who would make lunch. Besides, you get home at 6, and even if I weren't pursuing my hobby, I wouldn't be back until around 9. What do you do for 3 hours? Does it even matter? By the way, you sit in a calm laboratory all day, while I need to run around and drive through the city, and sometimes lift heavy things. And I leave 2 hours earlier than you. I have the right to come home and just rest. And I'd like to eat too. What good is a wife if she doesn't even perform basic duties at home?" "Oh, so that's how it is," she fired back. "So for you, a wife is just a cook and a cleaner?" "Thank you, dear. I always thought we had a lofty relationship, love. But it turns out it's all so mundane." "Carlotta, don't nitpick my words," Jasper retorted, grimacing in dissatisfaction. "You know perfectly well what my complaints are about. You're behaving irresponsibly. Look, I understand that work is important, and I don't say a word about your main job. But all these little creams and such, forgive me, but you're just wasting your time. Who needs this now? There's a ton of cosmetics on the shelves. Competing is just pointless. Okay, let's say you invent a cream that will take 10 years off a woman's age. But then you still have to get it on the shelves and advertise it. Who even knows about its miraculous properties? You need to license it and get certificates. And that costs money, quite a lot. Yes, we're in need, but there's simply no extra funds for that. Do you understand?" "I'll find sponsors," Carlotta retorted. "Yeah, sure. Since we returned from India, let me remind you, almost a year has passed, and you're still searching, but I don't see any results. No one wants to get involved in such a dubious venture, especially when there's hardly any product. So what have you and Leah accomplished? Basic formulations? That's not enough. Just give it a rest. You have a good job, and you're doing something worthwhile. These creams are just a whim." "You're wrong," tears welled up in Carlotta's eyes. "I thought you were the one person who could support me. You can always find money if you want to. After all, I could take out a loan. The problem is motivation. It's hard to do something when no one believes in you." "I believe in you," her husband hugged her to calm her growing hysteria. "But I don't believe in your creams. What would you buy standing at the counter, a famous French cream or some unknown product in a jar with a no-name label?" "I'd try the new product," the woman replied doubtfully. Jasper snorted, "I see your confidence." Carlotta knew he was right, but she still denied it. She believed that with enough effort, she could achieve her goals, given the right effort and funding. But there was none of that. Carlotta continued to stay late in the laboratory, with Leah not far behind. They had been working together for over a year to create their own cosmetic line. Leah convinced her father to partially finance them. Carlotta managed to save some money herself. Jasper had dissuaded her from taking out a loan. But unexpectedly for both women, one of the managers, Ventura, stepped in to help. The man allowed them to officially use the laboratory equipment and even bought the latest centrifuge and extractor at his own expense. It turned out that he had accidentally mentioned his disobedient lab assistants to his wife, Lilia. The already not-so-young woman became keenly interested in Carlotta's developments. She even came to the laboratory several times and took a couple of samples to try. This was the decisive push for funding from Ventura. His wife realized after just a couple of weeks of using the cream that no expensive French brand could give her such an effect. However, even Lilia's and Ventura's assistance was still minimal. Carlotta understood that at this pace, it was too early to think about success. That evening, she came home tired but satisfied. For some reason, Jasper was still not home, even though it was already around 11. The woman was quite surprised, as her husband usually returned home rather early. But what does usually mean? She had come home earlier today, and it had always just seemed that way to her, as Jasper always met her with a displeased face when she returned around midnight. Her husband returned 15 minutes after her and was quite puzzled to find Carlotta already at home. "You're early today," he said, bewildered, seeing his wife at the doorstep. "And you're late, I see," she replied with a question. "Yeah, I decided to hang out with the guys." Jasper averted his eyes. "With the guys?" Carlotta was surprised. "Well, yeah, it's boring at home waiting for you, so I went to Sergio right after work. We're planning a fishing trip soon, so we decided to sort everything out in advance." "Aha," Carlotta replied, confused. She was surprised by the mention of fishing. Jasper had never shown any interest in anything like that before. But she was too tired to dig into the details. For several weeks, the situation repeated itself 3 times. She continued to return home earlier than expected, without warning her husband. But despite her growing suspicions, she brushed off the thought that her husband was out cheating. After all, with her busy schedule, he had every right to occasionally spend time with friends. She thought it unnecessary to call Sergio and check her husband's alibi. Their relationship wasn't entirely smooth, and Carlotta's excessive suspicion could only ruin things. Besides, Jasper had become less confrontational and hardly ever expressed anything to his wife about her seemingly pointless hobby. It seemed that both were completely satisfied with this arrangement. Everything changed when Jasper suddenly bought a new car. The expensive foreign vehicle gleamed with fresh paint in the parking lot by their building. As Carlotta walked past the car, she didn't even suspect that this one now belonged to her husband. "Did you see that beauty parked outside our windows?" she asked Jasper when she entered the apartment. "I wonder who it belongs to and who came to visit." "You mean the blue car?" her husband replied with a mysterious smile. "Yeah," the woman nodded. "What's interesting is that it's parked in your spot. Where did you put your car?" "Well, this is our car now, dear," the man said, folding his arms across his chest with an air of importance. "What do you mean?" "I don't get it," Carlotta frowned. "What's unclear about it?" Jasper smirked. "I sold the old one and bought a new one. That's how it's usually done." "Yes, but, wait. This car costs several million. Even though I'm not an expert, I know that this brand is very expensive. Are you telling me you sold our old clunker and traded it for this? Please don't say you took out a loan." "Carlotta, don't get angry," her husband blushed. "Well, yes, I did, but it's not that much. A friend sold me the car. He wanted to give it to his son, but the kid is clueless, and they didn't agree on it. He significantly lowered the price, and I added a little, and I sold our old car at a good price." "So, Jasper," Carlotta protested, "you forbade me from taking out loans, especially when I needed it for a business that could potentially bring in a good income, but you end up taking money for an expensive car, whose maintenance will cost a fortune. The insurance alone probably costs 4 of my salaries. You know we can't afford such luxury." "Carlotta, don't scold me," the man tried to hug her, but his wife pulled away. "You have to understand, such an opportunity comes only once in a lifetime. Plus, the insurance for this year is already paid. My friend included it in the price. We'll ride it for a year, and then we can sell it if we can't manage. Just think how great it will be. You'll feel like a queen." All your friends will be envious." "What friends, Jasper?" Carlotta exclaimed. "You know perfectly well that I don't really have any, and I have no one to show off to. Besides, I'm not the kind of person to boast about wealth, especially not real, superficial wealth." "And what do you suggest?" Jasper scoffed. "Return it? It's not that easy to get back borrowed money. If you want, let's sell it." "Whatever, what can you do?" The woman sighed deeply. You bought it. Then I'll take out a loan too. I really need money right now for the final research. If everything goes well, we can start production in just a couple of months." Ventura said he'd pull the necessary connections and could help with advertising. "Are you out of your mind? What loan?" Jasper reacted immediately. "We're already paying for the car. We definitely don't need another one." "Jasper, do you even understand? Why did you even get this car? The old one was perfectly fine. You know very well that this money is much more needed by me than by you. And I'm ready to pay solely from my salary. I won't ask you for a penny. But in that case, everyone is on their own. If you can't afford gas, don't ask me. I'll manage to feed myself somehow." "Don't talk nonsense," the man snapped. "If you even dare to go to the bank, you can consider us strangers from that moment on. Do you understand me? Are you serious right now?" Carlotta was taken aback. "What do you mean by strangers?" "In the literal sense. You're not listening to me. You keep insisting on your research despite common sense, neglecting household matters. I won't even mention marital duties. No support from you." "No support from me?" Carlotta exclaimed. "Support you in buying an expensive and completely unnecessary car, and on credit too? Is that what you mean? Why are you getting worked up?" "Because your wants are always a priority. It feels like you don't think about the future at all. We aren't wealthy enough to drive around in sports cars. What's the point if we're going to have to live almost in poverty? And it's always like this with you, Jasper, mind you. Of everything I want, you only agree to vacations, and even then it took a lot of convincing to get you to go to that miserable India. And that was over a year ago. Don't you think that's unfair? You're buying game consoles for yourself, having regular lunches at restaurants, and now you've taken up fishing. Do you think I don't know how much all that costs? I can't even afford a new coat for myself. I save every ruble because I understand that my research is the future. I've studied everything. If everything goes well, then later we can rake in the money. We just need to tighten our belts a little and be patient. The key words here are if and how it's supposed to work. But what if it doesn't? Or what if it works differently than expected? Then what? How will you pay off the loans? With your salary? Nonsense. If I make a mistake, at least I can sell the car. Besides, I paid below market value for it. I'll still be in the black. I don't want to discuss anything further. Carlotta tiredly waved him off and headed to the bathroom. Carlotta was sitting alone in the laboratory when someone knocked on the door. Leah had left early today, and Carlotta didn't want to stay at work long after yet another argument with her husband. She was about to head home when an unexpected visitor interrupted her plans. "Come in," the woman shouted. "Hello," a head of an unfamiliar man appeared in the doorway. "Carlotta?" "Yes," she nodded. "What's this about?" "My name is Diego. I'm from Ventura. He said you were here and that I could drop by." Carlotta carefully looked the visitor over. He appeared to be about 30 years old, well-dressed, with a slightly confused look, and his glasses in an expensive frame were teetering on his thin, slightly crooked nose. Strange, the woman frowned, trying to understand what the young man needed. "He didn't say anything to me." "Are you here about the bacteria?" "Oh, no," Diego shook his head. "Ventura told me you're working on developing some innovative wrinkle creams or something like that." "Let's say so," Carlotta tensed. "Were you looking to buy?" "We're still in the development stage." "You misunderstand me," the man laughed. I'm not looking for myself, rather, how should I put it? In general, I would like to finance you. Me? Carlotta was taken aback. Well, you see, Diego continued, entering the office and sitting down in a chair, I have a lot of money, and I don't know where to invest it. Really? Carlotta was even more surprised. And why are you planning to invest in my project? Ventura is an old friend of my family. I've learned to rely on his opinion since I was young. He helped my father a lot back in the day. If it weren't for his advice, we would have lost a lot of money. Since then, we always consult with him. Recently, he visited us and mentioned that he has an employee working on innovative developments based on Asian plants, but lacks the finances to launch everything into production. At that time, I was looking for investment options. I thought that what you're passionate about could be promising. Really? Carlotta interrupted him. You're almost the first person to say something like that. Usually, people try to convince me that my project is a failure. Where did they get that idea? The young man frowned. As far as I'm concerned, the beauty industry is always profitable. I did a little research before coming to you. If I understood correctly, you're studying the healing properties of Indian herbs, specifically their rejuvenating effects. Aunt Lilia told me she had never used a more effective cream in her entire life. I believe her, she's a very spoiled and picky woman. If she says that, it must be true. So, I thought a product like that would be in high demand, no matter what price it's offered at. I can help with sourcing the raw materials, since I understand they need to be brought in from there. Yes, that's right, Carlotta nodded. The raw materials themselves aren't too expensive, but the logistics. I'm ready to take care of all that. Just tell me what you need, I'll cover all the costs. I'm ready to sign a partnership agreement with you right now. Are you serious? Carlotta looked at her interlocutor with wide eyes, unable to believe her ears. Yes, he simply nodded. I understand your surprise, but I tend to listen to my intuition and the advice of people I trust. It's clear that we won't sign everything right away. I'd like to review the results of your work first, then show everything to my acquaintance so he can draft a business plan. And we'll discuss the other organizational details as well, like the percentages each of us will receive from the outcome. But I feel that what you're working on right now is a real goldmine. So I propose we work together. I'll handle the money, advertising, and promotion, and you'll provide a quality product. That's it, the math is pretty straightforward. Well, if you're not joking, Diego, I'm willing to consider your proposal. This is all very unexpected. However, I won't hide it, I've been trying to bring this to life for over a year now, but I lack the funds. Yes, aside from that, there are other pitfalls. But everything is solvable. Great, the young man smiled broadly. By the way, Carlotta, let me put it bluntly, I'm really hungry. If you haven't had dinner yet, I invite you to grab a bite somewhere. You can tell me a bit about your work too. The woman bit her lower lip. Accepting the invitation felt somewhat awkward, even though she hadn't eaten since the morning and was indeed hungry. Carlotta was about to decline when her stomach betrayed her with a loud growl. Diego noticed it immediately. Oh, I see you're in agreement. Sorry, Carlotta blushed. I was planning to work for another couple of hours, but hunger waits for no one. Let's have dinner. I can bring along some notes on my research. No, Diego pretended to wave her off. I can't stand all that writing. Please forgive me, I was a C student in school. Ever since then, I've been very overwhelmed by thick stacks of papers. It would be better if you told me everything in your own words and let my partner deal with the paperwork later. Carlotta quickly took off her lab coat, grabbed her handbag from the cupboard, and was ready. They left the laboratory, locking the door behind them, and headed to the parking lot. Diego approached a striking sports car in bright yellow and opened the passenger door for Carlotta. Please, have a seat, he invited her. You have a beautiful car. The color is quite unusual. I have a little guilty pleasure, showing off in public. Diego laughed. Just kidding. To be honest, buying a yellow car for me is equivalent to going out in my birthday suit. I just really like this brand, their engines are powerful, and the car is top-notch. But the only one available was yellow. I would have preferred black, but it would take a month to get it, and I couldn't wait. But now that I've been driving it for a while, I've gotten used to it. At first, it felt weird when everyone stared, but now it's fine. Do you like it? I don't really understand anything about cars, Carlotta shrugged. I can just see that it's very expensive. That's true, Diego nodded. I'm not really a fan of such cars myself. I've always had more budget-friendly vehicles, mostly Japanese. But once I started earning money, people began to pressure me, Diego, you can't be driving around in junk at your status. It's unrepresentative. But I feel very uncomfortable in huge luxury cars, that's not for me. So I decided to buy a sports car. I'll tell you it's very convenient. Let's take a drive now, you'll see what I mean. Are you scared? I promise I'll be careful. I really don't like to speed, especially in the city. On the highway, you can sometimes allow yourself that. But at my age, it's not appropriate for me to switch to street racing. How old are you, if it's not a secret? Carlotta squinted. In her opinion, you could easily become a street racer at 30. I just turned 42 3 months ago. How much? The woman exclaimed, genuinely surprised. I wouldn't have guessed you were over 30. We look like we're the same age. Well, it's in my genetics. I know I look younger. And I was thinking, where does this kid get money for a car like this? Carlotta laughed. I even thought you were just another rich kid spending daddy's money. Oh no, the man shook his head. My family is quite ordinary, my dad is an engineer, and my mom is a teacher. They're both retired now. The money comes from a good investment. Right now, I'm looking for interesting startups to invest in. As for your thoughts on age, you're not quite right. The main thing is to use your head and take risks at the right moment. I see, Carlotta pondered. So, shall we go? Diego winked and started the engine. The engine growled deeply, and Carlotta immediately felt the power hidden beneath the bright yellow hood. The car started off smoothly but quickly. Carlotta had never felt anything like it. Diego pulled out of the parking lot onto the highway. The traffic was clear, and it was an opportunity to showcase the car's engineering capabilities in all their glory. The coupe soared down the highway, skillfully maneuvering through the sparse traffic. Diego was an excellent driver. He didn't make any sudden moves, driving almost intuitively, and demonstrated the perfection of the braking system at every red light. Finally, they arrived at a small restaurant, and Diego turned off the engine. Well, what do you think? He smiled. Awesome. Carlotta finally exhaled. Have you ever driven something like this before? No, of course not, she laughed. What are you talking about? I'm just a regular lab technician. I've only seen cars like this in pictures. My husband has a nice car too, but it's completely different. By the way, Carlotta trailed off when she spotted Jasper's car right in front of her in the parking lot. The dark blue vehicle sparkled and seemed to shout, "Look at me and admire me." What's wrong? Diego asked, noticing her agitation. Well, I was just starting to tell you about my husband's car, and there it is. That German one, right? The young man squinted. Yes. It's strange to see Jasper here. He probably came to the restaurant, Diego chuckled. On a weekday? Well, we came. No, that's not the point, Carlotta waved her hand dismissively. You see, I wouldn't call our family's financial situation stable. This car was bought on credit. Jasper claims everything was cheap for him, but he never showed me the documents with the amounts, saying they're in the office and he keeps forgetting them. But that's not the point. The main thing is he's currently paying off the loan, and we have no extra money at all. So I was surprised to see him at a restaurant. Yes, I've completely stopped cooking at home because of the delays in the lab, but he cooks perfectly well himself. There's takeout, after all. especially when every penny counts. But this restaurant is clearly not cheap. Yeah. It's not the most expensive, of course, but the average check is decent, Diego frowned. And you're right, it seems rather imprudent for your husband to make such unnecessary expenditures. When I was struggling financially, I didn't even refuse cheap fast food. I could go weeks living on plain buckwheat, and that was fine. Maybe he's having a business dinner? No, that's unlikely, Carlotta doubted. He only works until 5. Business lunches happen, but rarely. And it's already 9 o'clock. Definitely not that late. Oh. Wait. Here he comes. I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. Carlotta was already about to get out of the car when she suddenly froze. Jasper wasn't alone. He was holding the door of the establishment open for a stunning brunette. The girl was laughing cheerfully as she walked toward the car. Jasper hurried after her, opened the door, and at that moment, the brunette kissed him. It was a long and passionate kiss. Carlotta noted that immediately. She sat there, her mouth agape in shock. The scene was quite telling. Finally, they pulled away from each other. The brunette got into the car, Jasper ran around, and plopped down in the driver's seat. They lingered for a moment before speeding off and disappearing around the corner of the building. Carlotta sat in silence, her face flushed with surprise, shame, and outrage. Finally, Diego broke the silence. I take it your husband isn't being entirely honest with you. I know that girl. What? She looked at him in confusion. I know that girl, I'm telling you. She worked with my ex. A secretary at an oil and gas company. At Yamala? Carlotta clarified for some reason. Yes, in there. Do you know? Jasper works there. I see, Diego sighed. Did you know? No, the woman shook her head. There were moments when I suspected something like that. But I haven't spent much time with him this past year. I didn't even know what time he came home. I only got back around midnight. He was usually at home. A few times he came back later than I did when I got home early, but he said he was with friends, and I believed him. We had fewer fights then. Plus, sorry for the details, but intimacy between us has completely fizzled out. I kept blaming it on busyness and everything else, but this. You say you know her? Yes. She's a typical gold digger. Ramona, my ex, spoke of her unfavorably. She said her name is Agata or Ajita, I don't remember exactly, but she's always swapping out men like their gloves, looking for someone with a thicker wallet. She only held onto her job because of the company's status. There are supposedly a lot of wealthy candidates there. Jasper isn't wealthy at all. He has an ordinary job. The salary is decent, but he's not rolling in millions. It's unlikely she would be after him, especially since he's married. Yes, he's an attractive man, but she should understand that he's not exactly her target audience. Well, maybe he sweet-talked her or there's love. Who knows? You can't hide salaries in that office. The accountants and secretaries gossip over tea together. There's no secret in that. Love. Well, I can't think clearly right now. Carlotta, since we've come all this way, let's go eat something. It might help you calm down a bit. Or would that be a bad idea? If it's not too much trouble, please take me home. I really don't have an appetite, you understand. I can get there on my own. No way, I'll drive you. I can see you're upset and overwhelmed. It's not a good idea to go alone. We'll be there in no time. Do you think he'll go home now? I don't know, but I definitely need to go there. I feel like my head is being squeezed. Please forgive me, Diego. Let's meet tomorrow. I need some time to collect myself. Of course. No problem. I'm not going anywhere, just so you know, I understand completely. I recently went through a painful breakup myself. Ramona cheated on me, hiding it for almost a year, and we were already preparing for the wedding. I found out accidentally. I had a smart speaker at home. I accidentally called it and heard Ramona chatting sweetly with someone on the phone with some very interesting details. She was arranging a meeting. I didn't bother to find out the details, I just told her everything during dinner. She quietly packed her things and left. We didn't even argue. If feelings have faded, I believe it's better not to torment each other. Do you think I should tell Jasper everything directly, or should I wait for him to confess on his own? That's entirely up to you. I don't know what your relationship with him is like or what kind of person he is, but I would ask him directly. Maybe it's just a momentary lapse for him. Nothing serious. Infidelity is a delicate matter. If a woman cheats, it's usually caused by one set of reasons. For men, it's often just a simple instinct. I'm not justifying your husband, but perhaps he decided to escape family problems this way. In any case, you shouldn't act hastily, waiting for him to come clean. Objectively speaking, he might not confess at all. It's comfortable for him. You're oblivious, caught up in your work, while he's off having fun. What a fun distraction, Carlotta said with a grim smile. Honestly, I have no idea how to handle this situation. We're married and aren't the most unhappy couple. Yes, we've had a lot of misunderstandings lately and argue often. But I thought I understood Jasper. I chose work myself. However, he hasn't supported me at all. I didn't blame him because many of his arguments sounded convincing. At the same time, he didn't throw obstacles in my way. Another person would have issued a tough ultimatum, work or family. It's not even about work but my obsession with this project. Looking from the outside, Jasper wasn't entirely wrong. But when I urgently needed money and brought up a loan, he immediately said no, and then took out a loan for that car. To say I was angry would be an understatement. It became clear that his selfishness had come to the forefront. If it weren't for Ventura and Lilia, I probably would have given up a couple of months ago. But now it feels like I've been given new breath and motivation. But what I see now, it turns out he not only indulged himself with a car, but is also spending money on some woman, taking her out to restaurants. The last time he took me to a restaurant was on my birthday, and that was only because he saw that he should. We celebrated my 30th. After all, it's a milestone birthday, and it's not classy to celebrate at home. Yeah, Diego summarized. They drove home in silence. Jasper's car was not in the parking lot. Carlotta said goodbye and got out. She walked into her apartment in a daze. Just as she closed the door behind her and took off her shoes, the doorbell rang. Without looking through the peephole, she opened the door, thinking it was her husband, but it was his friend Sergio standing on the doorstep. "Hi, Carlotta," he greeted her. "Is Jasper home? I've been trying to reach him all day." "Hi, Sergio," she led him into the apartment. "He's not here. I just got back." "Yeah, I saw you getting out of such a fancy car. I was waiting over at the playground, trying to call you, but no one answered." "Well, a friend dropped me off. I tried calling Jasper too, no response." "Is something wrong? You look worried." "Yeah, it's about a serious matter. I just came from the hospital. Gabriel was taken to the ICU. I need money for medication urgently, and I thought Jasper wouldn't refuse me." "What happened?" Carlotta exclaimed in fear. Gabriel, Sergio's sister, was her age. "Well, she has diabetes," the man rubbed his forehead. "Something flared up. I'm not sure about the details. Dad called and said she was taken to the hospital by ambulance. The hospital said she urgently needs some imported medications, which they don't have. We need to buy them ourselves, and these medicines are very expensive. Right now, I'm dealing with construction and getting my son ready for university. We're completely broke. Sure, we have a little, but it's not enough. I didn't realize treatment would be so costly. The doctor said if they don't start the course right now, there could be serious complications. I'm really worried about Gabriel. How much do you need?" "I'll give it to you. I'm strapped for cash myself, but I'm saving a little. I can help at least a bit. Jasper is currently tied up with loans. He probably doesn't have any spare money. But he won't refuse you. What loans? Sergio frowned. He has plenty of money. Why would he go into debt? Has he really managed to blow through the entire inheritance? What inheritance? Carlotta's eyes widened. What do you mean, what? Sergio was surprised. His aunt passed away, remember? He just inherited a couple of months ago. He bought himself a car, saying he's now a wealthy man. He even planned to quit his job. Don't tell me you didn't know. No, I didn't know. Carlotta slowly sank into a chair. He didn't say a word to me about an inheritance. He said he got the car on credit. I was furious. You know how much I need money for my work. Jasper would have given me some if everything was as you say. And damn it, he even bought fishing rods. He complained they were expensive, but you seriously got into fishing. What fishing? Who? Me and Jasper? Are you joking? I've never even caught a fish. You know I'm not a fan of outdoor recreation. But Jasper told me that you were planning something, going somewhere up north for trout or grayling. He's been coming over to your place often in the evenings. Jasper? I haven't seen him in about a month, and that was by accident. We mostly communicate by phone. What a jerk. Carlotta's eyes flashed. Now it all makes sense where he's been hiding. What are you talking about? Sergio became worried. Your buddy has been lying. He didn't say a word about money, probably to avoid sharing it, because then he wouldn't have had any arguments to refuse me. And today I caught him with some woman. He was taking her to a restaurant. Sergio, how much money do you need? I'll give it to you. You talk to Jasper yourself. I'm in shock. Yeah, Carlotta, stop. I won't take your last money. I'm also shocked by Jasper's behavior. I came here knowing he has plenty of cash right now. Well, I'll try to call him later. You can wait here, but he'll probably come back around 11 if it's like before. Yeah, I'll go. I've already wasted so much time. Sergio shook his head. I can see things aren't going well for you. And I've just added fuel to the fire. You did the right thing, Sergio. Now I'll at least have some arguments for my discussion with my husband, Carlotta smirked. Don't worry, I won't spill the beans about learning about the inheritance from you. Thank you, the man nodded. I understand everything. After all, what's going on between you is your business. I won't meddle in your friendship. Carlotta said goodbye to Sergio and collapsed onto the sofa, exhausted. When Jasper returned, the woman was fast asleep right there in the living room, wrapped in a blanket. He didn't wake her, he simply walked into the bedroom and closed the door. The next day, Carlotta felt completely out of sorts. Everything was literally falling out of her hands, work wasn't going well. She didn't get to see her husband to express everything she wanted to say. She woke up only after he had left. Carlotta deliberately didn't call or text him, waiting for Jasper to reach out first. But he remained silent, as if out of spite. All day, Carlotta worked herself up. She was infuriated by the whole situation. When Leah asked if she should stay late after her shift, Carlotta snapped, no, which startled the girl. Then Diego called, but he immediately sensed that Carlotta was in a bad mood and scheduled a meeting for a couple of days later. The woman returned home early. She even asked to leave work, which caused her boss to be extremely outraged, as everyone was used to her practically living in the lab. Carlotta cited feeling unwell and wasn't lying, as she was very pale and felt her strength leaving her. The nerve strain was taking its toll. All the side effects of overworking came to the surface. Carlotta realized she was utterly exhausted. It was only 3 in the afternoon. Carlotta lay down on her favorite couch and sobbed. Tears flowed uncontrollably, like rivers bursting through dams. With those tears came all the accumulated grievances from the past months. When she calmed down, she understood that Jasper had essentially become a complete stranger to her. It was as if she opened her eyes, realizing that he had never seen her as an independent person. No, that's it. I absolutely won't listen to his excuses. Carlotta thought, staring at the ceiling. I don't care about his money. This is about the relationship. We've lived together for so many years, and he's hoarding the inheritance. Is he afraid I'll beg him for it? I don't care at all. I wouldn't take a single penny. The issue isn't really about the money itself, it's about the attitude. With his recent actions, he clearly indicated my place in his life. I'm definitely not going to live under the same roof with such a hypocrite, even if he confesses everything as soon as he walks in the door. How could he deceive me? I've never hidden anything from my husband and genuinely believed he was honest with me. But it turns out everything is just so. After dozing for a bit, Carlotta got up and went to the kitchen. She firmly decided to prepare dinner and talk to her husband afterward. When Jasper returned, he immediately sniffed the air. It smells delicious, he smiled at his wife. Why are you home so early today? Just decided to take a little break. I'm feeling fatigued. I told you a long time ago that it's time to give up your hobby. Well, yeah, you were right, Carlotta said with a forced smile. It was unbearable for her to look at her husband's smug face. Sit at the table. I fried some chicken. Great. I'll just wash my hands. While Jasper changed and washed up, Carlotta set the table. She even uncorked some wine and poured it into glasses. Wow! Jasper exclaimed as he walked into the kitchen. What's the occasion? Carlotta, you're scaring me. You came back early. Wine? There is a reason, Jasper, the woman said as she sat down at the table. I found a sponsor. No way, the man said in astonishment. You're not joking? I'm serious, Ventura helped. Of course, everything isn't finalized yet, but I think we'll work together. That person is ready to invest in my project, especially since almost everything is ready. Congratulations. Jasper smirked. I'm happy for you. You don't seem very sincere in your happiness, Carlotta squinted at him. What makes you think that? Seriously, I'm happy for you. I didn't think you'd find support. Well, yeah. What's strange is that a stranger is willing to help me, but my own husband is not. Are you starting this again? If I had extra money, I would help. That person probably doesn't have any spare cash, investing in a project that's bound to lose money in advance. Where do you get the idea that the project is going to lose money? Carlotta snapped. You're the only one who thinks that. I already have several people on my team. And Lilia believes in it too. She's not the kind of woman to throw around empty words. But as for whether you'd give me money if you had it, I seriously doubt that. What do you mean? Jasper took a couple of sips of wine. And you don't know, the woman remarked sarcastically. I really don't understand what you're talking about. And why are you so sure that I wouldn't sponsor you if I could? I only discouraged you because such ventures are extremely risky, and there's no point in risking our last money. I'm not just sure, Jasper. I've confirmed it. By the way, which bank did you say your car loan is with? Jasper looked intently at his wife, his cheeks slowly turning red. You still haven't brought me the documents, she continued. But I know why. Because there are no documents. I know you bought the car for cash and from the dealership, not from some acquaintance. Carlotta was bluffing but achieved the reaction she wanted from her husband. What are you talking about? He jumped up from the table. What nonsense is this? Where do you think I would get that kind of money? Are you completely stupid? The woman squinted at him. Surely you've heard that all secrets become known. Did you really think you could keep your inheritance from me forever? I had no trouble digging this up. By the way, now I understand why that Agata or Ajita, whatever her name is, never mind. Now I get why she latched onto you. You've been working with her for a long time, you should know that she's a gold digger. And the fact that you were previously of no interest to her didn't bother you at all? The funniest thing is that you blabbed about the inheritance to her, but not a word to me. You know what, dear? I've come to a conclusion. From this second on, we are strangers. Remember? Your own words. Carlotta. What? You've misunderstood everything. Why do you think I assumed you had something going on with that girl? Where did you get all this? Did you hear some gossip? No, Jasper. I just believe my eyes. I saw you together yesterday at that restaurant where you took her. But the man went pale. What were you doing there? That doesn't matter at all now. The fact that I saw you is enough. It was like a veil was lifted from my eyes, and everything fell into place. How long have you been with her? A couple of months? Probably right after you got the inheritance. Don't deny it now. I don't care about the reasons anymore. I'm not claiming to be a saint. Yes, I became obsessed with work, and that's my fault. But instead of supporting me in any way, you hid the fact of the inheritance, started an affair on the side, and calmly spent money on some questionable woman, choosing entertainment instead. You could have prevented this. Just your sincere words about believing in me would have given me strength, not your money. But no. You can't even manage something that simple. So that's it, husband. I think we're putting an end to this. Do you want a divorce? I don't know what I want. I haven't even thought about it, but there's no point in living like this anymore. Do what you think is best. I'll sign anything. I don't want to see you anymore. I'm not kicking you out to your mistress. This apartment is just as much yours as it is mine, but don't try to talk to me. You can sleep in the bedroom. I'll make do with the sofa. With those words, Carlotta got up from the table and left the kitchen. For the next 2 months, Carlotta didn't speak to her still husband. They lived under the same roof but hardly saw each other. Jasper himself rarely appeared at home, preferring to stay away. Carlotta threw herself into her cosmetics project. Diego finally reviewed the results of her work and was pleased. Together, they selected a focus group, 50 women of varying ages and skin types. They agreed to test Carlotta's products on themselves for a month. The results were astonishing. Almost all the women noticed significant improvements in their skin condition, particularly impressive among the age group of 35 to 45. This was exactly the demographic Carlotta was targeting as her primary consumers. When the results were confirmed, each participant in the experiment went home with a couple of jars of the miraculous creams. Successful tests meant one thing: it was time to launch the product on the market. All that remained was to obtain the necessary certificates and settle a number of other documentation issues, but Diego took care of all the legal aspects. Carlotta hired a designer to create eye-catching bottles and packaging and to think up advertising posters and banners for online scrolling. Meanwhile, word of mouth had already started working, and Carlotta was inundated with pre-orders from the participants in the experiment and numerous women to whom Lilia had actively promoted the creams. Sales hadn't even been publicized yet, and the number of orders surpassed 200. Lia was the most excited. Her eyes sparkled with happiness, as so much time had been spent on all this. Lia eagerly experimented with the formulations on herself, noting their wonderful properties. While Carlotta dealt with her divorce, Lia took on most of the responsibilities. The work in the laboratory was finished, and Lia took a vacation to help Diego find a production facility, as only Carlotta knew what would be needed for the operation. Finally, everything was ready. By that time, Carlotta had divided the property with Jasper. They had to sell the apartment. The woman bought a small studio near the central city square and permanently erased her ex-husband from her life. She didn't know if he continued to see that girl, nor did she particularly want to be informed. Jasper tried to call her a few times, but eventually, Carlotta just blocked him everywhere. She finally realized how much he had held her back. Carlotta walked around her mini factory, where new equipment had just been delivered. "Do you like it?" Diego asked as he approached her, draping a white coat over his shoulders. "Oh, you look like a doctor." Carlotta laughed. "There's one for you too. Soon everything here will be sterile. They'll set everything up now, and this evening a team of disinfectors will arrive. There's a sealed entrance over there, so if you want to come in, put on a coat and a cap. Just like always, Carlotta smiled. It seems it's my fate to wear lab coats. By the way, I've resigned. Ventura backed me up in front of the boss. They wouldn't have let me go otherwise, but they listened to him. I'm finishing my last day tomorrow. Whatever will be, will be. Everything will be fine, the man patted her on the shoulder. You're not taking much of a risk. I, on the other hand, have a different situation. Although honestly, the investments turned out to be not that significant. Our business plan is maximally optimized, and this place was practically a steal. A friend of mine used to run a household chemicals production here. He went bankrupt and sold me the workshop for peanuts. That's not very reassuring, knowing that the previous owner went bankrupt here. Carlotta frowned. Superstitions are a sign of weak-mindedness. Stop that nonsense, Diego laughed. He went bankrupt not because the business was bad, but because he got into drinking and blew all his money. That's why he had to sell everything. One is not better than the other. So, Carlotta, starting tomorrow, I expect you here as the owner. By the way, let's go. I'll show you your office. Carlotta climbed the stairs to a fully glassed-in room. The design of the workshop meant that the administrative area seemed to hover over the production area. From here, one could observe the process without leaving their workspace. Carlotta looked around her new domain. Centrifuges and reactors gleamed with steel everywhere, and along the wall behind a glass partition stood tables with electronic microscopes. On the opposite side of the room was the packaging conveyor, and monitors hung everywhere, tracking every stage of the process. Carlotta's office was decorated in a style quite unusual for a business setting. A huge hand-woven rug covered the floor, the curtains were adorned with elaborate Eastern patterns, exotic plants stood in pots, and the owner's desk was decorated with intricate carvings. Upon closer inspection, Carlotta recognized motifs from ancient Indian epics. Diego, this is simply incredible. I thought, since India was your inspiration, it would be fitting to pay tribute to that tradition and mark its presence in your factory. Well, besides the raw materials, of course. By the way, a shipment from Mumbai will arrive tonight. I checked with the customs officials today. They gave me the exact timings. Everything is fine. So we can get started soon. What about the staff? Carlotta suddenly remembered. What about them? Diego pretended to whiten his eyes. Well, you understand that people will need time to get used to the new equipment. Don't worry about that. While you were sorting out your divorce, Lilia trained the staff. We've hired those who know their stuff. These aren't any newcomers. Some were personally recommended by Ventura. Diego, I don't know how to thank you. This has cost a fortune. Stop it. You worry too much about money. For me, it's a trivial amount. I thought I'd spend more. Just think about how quickly everything will pay off. We already have a ton of pre-orders without any advertising. And what will happen when everyone starts actively using your cosmetics? Especially since you don't just have one cream. Do you even remember what you worked on? We have 4 lines for different age groups. Each line includes a day and night cream, a serum, something for the eyes, a cleansing product, and we also have a line for hair care on the way. If everything sells quickly, we'll launch a men's line too. To be honest, Carlotta, I'm using your cream as well. Is that true? Carlotta was surprised. No wonder your face looks so smooth. You don't even look 30 now. Soon I'll look like a teenager. Diego laughed. All right, you take care of things here. I still need to run some errands. The designer is bringing the packaging and advertising posters for the online stores. By the way, you've seen the website already, right? Yes. It's excellent. I was so amazed when I saw how the turmeric root turns into a girl. That's very original. I honestly liked it. So I'll wait for the designer. Diego left, and Carlotta relaxed into the soft chair he had specially ordered for her from India. She didn't even notice when she dozed off. She dreamed that she was walking down the street, surrounded by many people, all reaching out to her. Carlotta was draped with bunches and garlands made of some roots, which she tore off herself and threw into the crowd. A reverent murmur could be heard all around. The people were happy. She woke up from a knock at the door. "Hello," a pretty woman entered the office. "Oh, Ada, hello," Carlotta greeted the designer, stifling a yawn. "Your place is so lovely." Diego did all this himself. I offered to help him, but he insisted on handling the decor himself. Really, the owner was surprised. I didn't even think he had such good taste. To be honest, I was sure this was your doing. No, no. Ada waved her hands. That's not my work, of course, but are you aware that he has a crush on you? Who, Diego? Yes. I've known him for ages, and I can sense these things right away. He'll never say it outright. Diego has his own ways of showing affection. Restaurants and bouquets aren't for him. This man expresses his fondness in a unique way, through caring for little things and offering support. Nowadays, very few are capable of that, and it's not just because he has money, it's how his parents raised him. His ex was terribly annoyed by that. She was, how can I say, a gold digger, to put it bluntly. She only wanted flowers and gold with diamonds. I never understood what Diego saw in her. But he's a romantic to the core. He's pragmatic too, though. He might, for instance, gift a whole field of tulips, but definitely not those tacky bouquets. A field? Has he already gifted someone that? No, I'm just exaggerating. Ada blushed. Just to give you an idea. I'll say it again, it's not my place to say, and I have no idea how you feel about each other. Just one request, don't hurt him. He's very sensitive, even though he pretends to be all businesslike and cynical. Well, I wasn't planning to hurt him, Carlotta frowned. But honestly, I didn't even think he liked me that much. After all, a sponsor is a sponsor, we have purely business relations. Well, Ada smiled. All right, you'll figure it out. I brought the labels and boxes straight from the printing house. Shall we take a look? Yes, of course, Carlotta nodded and followed the designer downstairs. So, shall we celebrate? Diego's voice was cheerful and excited. The launch was successful, now we can leave everything to Lilia. She'll make a great manager, haven't seen such enthusiasm in a long time. We'll start shipping to the stores tomorrow. The team will pack everything up today and prepare it for dispatch. Your presence isn't needed here anymore. Do you think so? Carlotta asked doubtfully. Get used to the fact that you'll need to observe the process and control the finished products more often than directly participating in production. When it's time to update the recipes, then yes, of course, we can't do without you. But for now, you can take a break. Once the sales boom starts, you'll have plenty of work. Have you even looked at yourself? How little sleep have you had? It's clear that you're nervous and not getting enough rest. You urgently need to breathe some fresh air. Is it really that bad? Carlotta smiled. It's not bad, but you should make some adjustments or you'll be falling over from exhaustion. Come on, get ready. I want to take you somewhere. I hope it's not to a restaurant, the woman frowned. What restaurant? It's 1,000,000 times better. Well, in that case, let's go. Carlotta and Diego left the factory and got into the car. At first, she didn't understand where they were going. It soon became clear that the car was speeding them away from the city. The houses outside the window became fewer and farther apart. Finally, they were replaced by forests and fields. They drove for about an hour. Suddenly, Diego sharply turned off the highway onto a dirt road. This time they were in an SUV, so there were no problems navigating the path. The road led to a small grove, surrounded by a picket fence. Diego stopped the car, grabbed a bag from the back seat, and walked over to the sagging gate. Come on out, he shouted to Carlotta. We'll go the rest of the way on foot. The woman obediently climbed out of the vehicle and headed toward the fence. "What is this place?" she asked curiously. "This used to be a plot of land belonging to my parents. At one point, we were going to build a house here, but we didn't have the money, and then it just fell by the wayside." "And this forest is yours?" "Well, it's not a forest, it's a grove. It only seems like there's a lot." "Yes, it's ours too." "It's beautiful," Carlotta said. "Is this what you meant when you said I needed fresh air?" "Almost." The man and the woman entered the grove. Tall ancient pines interspersed with slender birch trees surrounded them, and the ground was covered with pine needles, filling the air with a scent that made Carlotta dizzy at first. "All right, Carlotta," Diego suddenly stopped. "Now I want to blindfold you. Don't be scared, I just have a little surprise for you. Hold my hand, and let's walk quietly, it's just a couple of steps." "You're being strange," the woman squinted at him but allowed him to blindfold her. Diego's hands were warm and nimble. He easily wrapped a soft, light-blocking blindfold around Carlotta's eyes, then tightly gripped her hand and led her forward. Walking nearly by touch was challenging, but Carlotta trusted this strange guy. His hand was so warm and strong that it gave her a complete sense of safety. Finally, the man stopped. "Okay, I'll count to 10, and then I'll take off the blindfold. Are you ready?" "Yes," Carlotta laughed. A pleasant unfamiliar scent hit her nose, sharply replacing the resinous air of the grove. 1, 2, he counted slowly, 3. "Don't peek." "I can't peek. You put this blindfold on me." "I know, it's a complete blackout." 4, 5. "Yes, hurry up. I'm dying of impatience. Women are always in such a rush." 6, 7, 8. "Now, get ready." 9, 9.5, 9.25. "Just do it already." Carlotta stomped her foot. 10. Diego deftly removed the blindfold, and before Carlotta's eyes opened in astonishing sight, it was a vast field covered with yellow and pink flowers. Bright scarlet buds dotted the landscape. None of these flowers were familiar to Carlotta, even though she had long been interested in plants. "Goodness, how beautiful," the woman exclaimed. "It was worth the wait." "I won't argue." "Do you really like it?" Diego looked at her with shining eyes. "It's beyond words. What kind of flowers are these? I've never seen them before." "The yellow ones look like a mix of sunflowers and daisies, while the pink ones seem like meadowsweet, but the color is strange. The yellow ones are Maximilian sunflowers, the fluffy pink ones are Prairie Queen, and the bright red ones are mallows. Almost all of them were brought from the Western Hemisphere. They were planted in early summer, right now is their peak blooming season. I calculated it on purpose, I was afraid I wouldn't make it." "What wouldn't you make it for?" Carlotta looked at Diego in confusion. "For the opening of our factory," the man smiled. "This is for you." "For me?" "The flowers." "Those?" Carlotta was stunned, immediately recalling Ada's words about a field of tulips. "Don't you like them?" "Are you kidding? How could I not like them?" "But you've gone mad. Who gives away an entire field of flowers? And it turns out you've been preparing for this for a couple of months by planting them here." "Longer," the guy smiled. "Since the moment I met you. I wanted to give you something unique, especially at the moment when you caught your husband with that beauty. Carlotta, I believe you deserve better. I'm not claiming any titles or pretending to be the perfect man or anything like that, but I promise you that I will never let anyone hurt you and I will do everything possible to make you a happy person." "Diego," the woman said, looking at him in surprise, "I don't understand." "I really like you." Diego took Carlotta's hand in his. "No, it's more than that. I feel something deeper for you than just affection. I've never felt this way before. Even though I've been with many women in my life, it's not the same. The moment I saw you, I knew you were special." "Don't talk nonsense." Carlotta laughed. What's so special about me? Your character, the sparkle in your eyes, your willpower, your resilience. I could go on for a long time. These qualities aren't common among most women. Carlotta, you know, I've never met anyone like you. And I truly believe that our meeting wasn't by chance. I'm very glad that I helped you realize your dream. Well, more precisely, we're not quite there yet, but we're almost at the finish line. Are you seriously saying all this? Carlotta didn't try to pull her hand away. I don't even know what to say. Don't say anything. If you reject me, I'll understand. What's the big deal? I won't reject you, the woman interrupted him. No? No, she smiled gently. I'll let you in on a secret. I've known everything for a couple of days now. Even about this field. Although I was promised tulips, but Ada let it slip, didn't she? Diego grimaced. Yes, Carlotta smiled in response. But don't be angry with her. At least I had a couple of days to process it all and realize that I care about you too. Over these months, we've become really close. Although I thought it was all on the level of business partnership, you can't fool the heart. I like you a lot too. I don't know if we're doing the right thing, but are you agreeing to go out with me? The guy asked simply. Sorry for asking so straightforwardly. I don't really know how this is usually done, but I'm no kid anymore, so I call things by their names. Yes, Carlotta smiled. She didn't have time to finish her sentence. Diego gently kissed her. Carlotta didn't expect such success. Literally within the first week of sales, all her products flew off the shelves. The factory employees could barely keep up with production, churning out batch after batch. Pre-orders came in one after another. In just 6 months, the creams under the Indiaker brand became so popular that people were talking about them even beyond the country's borders. The products were especially in demand among women over 30. The cosmetics gained popularity largely due to their democratic pricing policy. Carlotta intentionally kept the prices low to make her cosmetics more sought after. The owner of the brand was soon invited to fashion magazine editorial offices for interviews, to various presentations, fairs, and promotional events. Before long, her face became recognizable. Carlotta, we need to think about increasing production capacity, Diego said one evening while studying the sales department's reports. Our mini factory can't keep up anymore. Diego, I didn't expect it to go like this. Every time I remember how everyone tried to dissuade me, it's almost funny. Where are all those people now? Only you, Lilia, and Ventura believed in me. That's intuition, my dear, he kissed her cheek. I told you back then that I never ignore my instincts. And this is just the beginning of the journey. You're a very talented pharmacist, did you know that? But the most important thing is that you have a natural curiosity. That's what pushed you toward your dream. Diego, this is all you're doing, the woman blushed. If it weren't for you, I would have abandoned all of this. You can't imagine how important support is. I can imagine very well. My parents believed in me back then, even though everything I was involved in seemed questionable in terms of prospects. And Ventura did too. If it weren't for those people, I would have remained just an ordinary urban poor guy. Well, maybe I would have worked in a factory. I don't even have a proper education, just school, everything else I learned on my own. Really? You never told me, Carlotta was surprised. I would never have thought you only finished school. You're just like a Western billionaire. Some of them skip out in their final years, which, however, doesn't stop them from succeeding in life. Well, the thing is, statistically, it's the average students who achieve the most in life. Honor students either drink themselves into oblivion or sit for years in low-paying jobs. I could use my acquaintances as examples, but there are exceptions, of course. There's no point in lumping everyone together. Yes, you're right there. Although I was an honor student and graduated with a red diploma in biotechnology, and what good did it do? Don't say that. You're an exception. Or rather, it's more than that. Carlotta, you're a genius. Not everyone can come up with such phenomenal creams. Leading cosmetic brands hold specialists like you in high regard and take great care of them. And they certainly don't hide away in tiny, provincial labs. Calling me a genius is a bit much, the woman laughed. It's just a series of coincidences. Jasper and I happened to go to India because I managed to persuade him. We were planning to go somewhere else entirely. It was there that I just happened to notice the local women, and then I coincidentally struck up a conversation with a herb seller at the market who told me about the miraculous properties of the plants. It was completely by chance that I even ended up back in my old lab, and Lilia just happened to try my cream because Ventura casually mentioned it to her, not even about that. And of course, it was also a coincidence that we met, and we just happened to go to that restaurant where I saw Jasper with his mistress. And you know the rest. Don't you think there are too many coincidences? This is starting to smell like a pattern. According to one scientific theory, all events are predetermined. Have you heard of this? No, what's that? Well, it's just a hypothesis. There's no divine plan involved. The essence is that what we perceive as coincidences is actually what returns us to our true predetermined path when our actions lead us astray. So everything you mentioned inevitably brought you back to the road that fate had laid out for you. Do you understand? Interesting, Carlotta pondered. Let's say you're right, but then that means what I'm doing is my true path. So I should continue, no matter what happens. Exactly, Diego embraced her. So come on, don't relax just yet, we still need to think about how to expand. Lilia also came up with several new samples to broaden the product line, a men's line, a teenage line, and a premium segment. But I don't want to sell expensive creams. You know I have a different policy. Who's asking you to raise prices? Premium doesn't necessarily mean astronomical costs. I would focus on rare plants and a specific target audience. To be honest, Lilia asked about this. Really? Well, I can't say no to her, Carlotta laughed. All right, show me what you have in mind. On the test paper, 2 bright pink stripes stood out. Carlotta held it with a trembling hand. Oh my God, she thought. This can't be happening. For so many years, Jasper and I couldn't have this, and now? How do I tell Diego? What if he reacts badly? We've never even talked about children, not once, not even hinting at it. I thought he wasn't interested in that at all. And he hasn't proposed legalizing our relationship. We've been together for almost a year, and he's silent. No, I'm not insisting. I'm fine with things as they are. But. What does but mean? A child. I'm not sure I'm ready. Wait. What does it mean to be ready, anyway? About 80% of women aren't ready. I'm one of them. I need to somehow tell Diego, but I'm terrified. A noise in the hallway distracted her from her thoughts. Diego had returned. On shaky legs, Carlotta stepped out of the bathroom, quickly hiding the test strip in her pants pocket. Hi, darling, she greeted him sweetly. Carlotta, why do you look so disheveled? Diego asked, surprised. What happened? You look lost. Oh, it's nothing. I dropped an earring in the bathroom and couldn't find it. Let me help you find it. Did you turn on the flashlight? It's easier to see with that. I'll do it later when I clean up. Well, all right. What are you up to right now? Me? Not much, I just got back from the factory. Lilia practically kicked me out. I was feeling a bit dizzy, and you know how she is, she keeps a close eye on me to make sure I don't overwork myself. With the last series update, we were completely deprived of sleep. By the way, did you hear? Nadi compiled the reports for the last quarter. Have you seen the numbers? Oh no, I didn't make it to accounting today, even though she told me to stop by. That's a shame. We, Carlotta, have something to celebrate. In fact, I'd say the whole team should celebrate. Just in time for the anniversary. Seriously? Yes, but it's definitely not today. We need to prepare everything. But right now, we're going to a cozy little restaurant. I reserved a room for just the two of us. A room? Carlotta's eyes widened. It's not really a room, the restaurant only has 10 seats. So don't worry, but the place is amazing. Well, I need to change. You look great. The place isn't fancy. We'll just sit quietly, comfortably, okay? All right then, Carlotta laughed. At least can I touch up my lipstick? No. Diego jokingly frowned. We're already late. The restaurant was in a rather strange location. It stood on the waterfront but was literally hidden away in some bushes from the main pedestrian area. Even the entrance was hard to find for someone who didn't know it was there. Oh my God. Carlotta smiled. How did you even find this place? Just bushes and more bushes. It's a private club. A friend of mine owns it. Outsiders can't get in, and tables are booked almost a year in advance. Even I got the room as a favor from him 2 months ago. 2 months? Wait, aren't we celebrating some high quarterly earnings? Right? Well, yes. But you only found out about it today, yet you booked the restaurant 2 months ago. That reminds me of something. Are you talking about the flower field? Diego smiled. Yep. Carlotta, we've been together for a year now. You should be used to the fact that I always plan everything in advance. Just in case. What if it's needed? It's never too late to cancel, but if something urgent comes up. So I'm just covering my bases. Let's say you're right, the woman squinted, but still, you're being a bit secretive. You're always so suspicious, Diego hugged his friend. All right, let's go. Come this way. He led Carlotta through a mini labyrinth of shrubs to a tall glass door. Inside the restaurant, it was cozy and a bit dark. They sat down on a soft velvet sofa, and immediately the waiter brought them a bottle of wine. From the dusty glass, it looked like something very good. Seeing the wine made Carlotta flinch. Oh, I won't have any, she said with a pleading look at Diego. Why not? He frowned. It's a very decent wine. I picked it out especially for you. I just don't feel well today. What if I get a headache? Well, just half a glass for the toast. Okay. Carlotta agreed, thinking of a way to make Diego think she was drinking the wine when she wasn't. She took a small sip when Diego made a toast, congratulating them both on the successful project. Shortly after, the waiter brought the food. The dishes were beautifully presented and tasted exceptional. Once they finished dinner, it was time for dessert. They brought something very strange. In front of Carlotta lay a little chest made of fragile pastry, designed to look like some kind of pirate treasure. Break it open, Diego winked at her. Why do you have a different one? The berries look beautiful. Oh, I see. I've seen desserts like this. The most interesting part is inside. All right. Carlotta picked up the long spoon that came with the chest. As soon as she tapped the delicate crust, Diego discreetly signaled to someone, and a small orchestra began to play. Startled, Carlotta jumped. Oh, she exclaimed, immediately looking at the shattered crust. Under the layer of crispy pastry was a box surrounded by berries, and in the center of a velvet cushion gleamed a large blue stone. Carlotta raised her eyes to Diego and saw his shining gaze. My beloved, the man stammered, I've messed everything up again. This is your favorite sapphire, the man smiled. I see, but Carlotta, will you marry me? Diego. Yes. Of course, yes. Tears streamed from the woman's eyes. Diego immediately hugged her tightly, and after a couple of seconds, he took out a ring and slipped it onto her finger. I should also give you something, Carlotta said, regaining her composure. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the test strip. I'm sorry it looks so shabby, but here, this is for you. Diego, confused, reached out his hand and studied the item for a long time. This. Carlotta. I'm a bit out of the loop. What is this? Oh, he blushed deeply and even stood up from the sofa. Carlotta, is this what I think it is? I don't know what you're thinking, the woman laughed through her tears. I'm going to be a father? Diego said in a choked voice. Yes, Carlotta nodded and looked away. Why are you looking away, darling? He grabbed her shoulders. So that's why you refused the wine? Oh my God. How long have you known? Yes, I found out just before you arrived. Wow. And don't say again that this is just a coincidence. Diego couldn't contain his emotions. He kept grabbing Carlotta, then distracted himself with the test strip. The wedding of Diego and Carlotta was widely covered in the media. This event caused a real stir. Many were outraged that a successful businesswoman who had created a line of miraculous Indian cosmetics and one of the wealthiest residents of the city celebrated their marriage so modestly, inviting only their closest friends. Others sincerely admired the beautiful and happy couple. Jasper was scrolling through the newsfeed when he saw an article about his ex-wife's wedding. He had long been following Carlotta's success over just a little more than a year after their divorce. In the meantime, he had lost almost everything. His mistress had skillfully manipulated him into spending most of his inheritance and then swiftly left with some sheik to the Emirates. Jasper drank away the remaining money. Every time he got drunk, he reached for the phone to call Carlotta, but then held himself back. He saw from the news that his ex-wife's brainchild was becoming popular and in demand, contrary to his predictions, and Carlotta was often talked about in glowing terms. The more he heard, the angrier he became. But he still held on to the hope of finding a way back to his ex-wife and was just waiting for the right moment. Yet the opportunity never arose. The news of Carlotta's wedding was the last straw. The man realized that it would now be easier for him to forget her. In the photographs, Carlotta looked completely happy next to an equally joyful young man. Jasper set his phone face down, silently uncorked a bottle of expensive whiskey, poured it into a glass, and drank it in one go. Damn it, he exclaimed in frustration, bursting into tears.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.